rained this morning. I woke up at 8:44 and it was pouring and thunder and lightning, and it's going on 10 now, and it's finally let up a little bit, and these guys are past ready for their food. Aren't you? I promise, I'm working on it. He's crying at the door. Hey, buddy. Oh, he has these little gentle mews. Alright, they're all much happier with me now. I don't know if it's done raining, so I got them to go in the catio, and I got Tux to go up top here on the platform. He was a little confused, but he figured it out. Let's see how much rain we got. I'm betting close to a ½ an inch again. Close to a ½ an inch again. It's between 4/10 and a half, 5/10. Significant. I checked the radar and it does look like the majority of the rain has passed us, although there's a couple of bands in South Carolina, kind of southwest of us, that could head this way, so never say never, but I think it's mostly done raining here. So you've been reading in the newspaper again. Yeah. What did you read this time that you want to share with folks?
Well, Duke Energy, the one that covers, we're Duke Progress, but Duke Carolinas is the parent of the bigger one. That anyway, the point is, we're not in this program's area, but Duke has asked the North Carolina Public Utilities Commission to approve a pilot program where they can work with F-150 Lightning owners who install the Power Pro charger, which allows you to run your house from your F-150. If you install that, you can join a program Duke wants to set up. They want to get 100 F-150 Lightning customers, and they're going to run this program, and they're going to pilot it to try to see how using electric vehicles can help manage the peak demand on the grid. They're thinking mornings in the December, January, and February. Sure. And they're thinking afternoons in June, July, and August. The current program, they're thinking that they'll up to 3 times per month, so 9 times in the winter and 9 times in the summer, they will call on your vehicle to see if you can supply energy to the grid. Now, of course, that means your vehicle has to be at home, it has to be plugged in, and it has to be charged. Those details weren't how much state of charge and how much they're going to draw. They don't know yet. But the key thing was they said they will send a notification to the participants the day before, so that you will know about that tomorrow's your day. And they do realize you have the option of opting out. But if you opt out twice in 1 month, they'll just remove you from the program, because they have to have high reliability. In other words, if everybody keeps opting out, then this is no solution. In other words, if everybody who owns a electric vehicle opts out of the program every time, then it's a no solution. They're looking for something to actually solve the peak demand, and their goal by 2035 is to solve 4.3 gigawatts, defer 4.3 gigawatts to either home solar, these kinds of programs, or energy reduction in the home. So they're thinking that's the equivalent of 3 large power plants they're not going to build, so they need programs like this pilot to achieve something. So this is why they're doing it. They're going to do it for 2 years.
Interesting.
I think it's a good idea. Right now it's only F-150 Lightnings because of Ford's got this basically end-to-end solution. Right now Tesla has power walls, but they don't include the car. And they've already got plenty of data on power walls by now. I don't know that Duke has it, but Tesla does. They know how it works. But Duke's trying to get in, come up with an initial pilot that covers F-150s, but eventually will add other cars, other EVs.
Yeah, I think there are some pilot programs someplace that work with the power companies and the power walls, but not locally, not Duke.
Right. Well, they did. There's no incentive right now to sign up for this program, unless I misunderstood. There's no incentive. They're basically asking for volunteers.
Right.
The program's only going to have $500,000 to manage the program and run the program for 2 years, which sounds like a lot of money, but that doesn't sound like that much money to me.
Right. Well, we won't know if these types of programs are viable or not if we don't try them out.
Yeah.
I guess my concern as an EV owner is extra cycles on the battery and no reimbursement for allowing the power company to do that. But
one of the outcomes of the pilot is what kind of incentives will be needed to have people join the program in the future. In other words, right now, it's sort of like you're signing, and Tesla did the same thing. Their virtual battery, they basically, the people out in California signed up and with no incentive, and now here in the last week or so, they've talked about it's $2 a kilowatt or something that they get if they make their battery available at the right time. And I'm sure that's the kind of data that Duke or anybody's going to be interested in doing, is how much, because it costs a lot of money. Those 6 a.m. energy calls where they're short on, the grid's very unstable, they'll pretty much pay any amount. I saw one of those spot prices of myself. I was watching, I had Andy explain it to me, but it was over $750 a kilowatt hour or something. I mean, it was ungodly how much money for just a few minutes that they had to pay for energy. So paying somebody $2 a kilowatt hour is cheap, for that.
Right. Well, like you said earlier this summer with the what did we call those events? Energy events on our thermostat. Yeah. It's like, first off, they bump down our AC before they start the energy event, and that costs us money because they're bumping it down during peak and lower than we normally keep it. And Don's desk is right over top of the air vent back there, so they're freezing him to death when they do that. He's basically got on blue jeans, socks. He's wearing fall winter clothes.
I actually put a flannel
shirt on in the summer in the house, and then and then we are uncomfortable, and they gave us $25 for the summer, or they gave us
$25 for the whole summer.
Right. And I think you said at one point, I think it's more like it ought to be $20 an event or something. If they're going to do it once or twice a summer, $25 sounds good, but if they're going to do it 10 times this summer, I want some real cash for the income. Pay me, give me something for it, because we're not here to help Duke make more profit. So
right. Well, I guess with me, the incentive would be, if it's not $5 an event, then it's not worth it to me. Right. I don't have to have $20, but I'm not going.
Yeah, I forgot what amount you said, but it was something more than $25 carries as many events as you want to have this summer. Wasn't working for Don.
Right. Well,
Don wants to see. I guess what you're saying is on a per event basis, I want some compensation so that if you do it a whole bunch of times, it's, well, 25 was great if they did it twice this summer.
Right. Well, there's no incentive for them. If they don't pay per event, there's no incentive for them to work a little harder to make sure before they start having to pay $5. In other words, there's going to be a pecking order in which they're going to go through to try to manage the event. And at some point, paying somebody $5 to potentially turn off their air conditioner for, I don't know, what is it, an hour or 15 minutes or whatever, that becomes important enough to pay somebody $5 for.
Yeah. Well, like I said, going back to the F-150, the amount of extra cycles charging and recharging the battery, I think that has a long-term consequence. Over say 10 years worth of time.
Well,
but the AC thing and just, running it or not running it seems to be a little less wear and tear on the equipment. But You know, we don't have any real world data on that yet, and those F-150 people will help us figure that out.
Yeah, well, I think they're going to have a hard time getting 100 people.
Yeah, I wondered how many have actually been sold in the States so far. I've not seen one on the road in person, but I'm not sure I would have noticed either. But
well, they're trying to kick this thing off like ASAP, like this winter. But I don't know. I'm not an electrician, but if you install all of that stuff that you need, I believe, into your home, I think you're talking $10,000.
Right.
So you have to say, not only do I have my truck and I want to do this, the $10,000. Now, I need to be very clear. I think this might be a possible reason why some people might be teetering. In other words, got $10,000 to install this so that I can power my house in the event that we lose power because of, like, we've lost power a couple times. You know, that's...
I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready to put some pressure.
Right, well,
I'm just hoping the Cybertruck is going to have similar capabilities.
Well, yeah, but $10,000 and plus the hassle, all the permits and the, you know, all that you're going to have to go through to do that is a little
Yeah,
pricey.
I think for Don, it's not the money. It's a little bit the money, but it's more the electrician, somebody else out here that's an electrician. But I'm ready to have
the other
backup
thing
power.
I was going to say is that, you know, bang for the buck. If I was going to spend the money, I would just put in some type of gasoline propane generator, whole house generator for us, because to me, you know, if we have a Cybertruck and Tesla offers this, we might do it, but I you know, it just depends. $10,000 for that one event, and not being able to literally, if we have a hurricane, having a Cybertruck is not going to be of any value. If you have a hurricane and it was 3 weeks without power, you can't run a Cybertruck for 3 weeks without, you know, you run
Right,
your house.
having an electric vehicle in a power short term, say 24-hour or 48-hour power loss is beneficial, because you can go out there to cool down or warm up or charge your cell phone or entertain the kids. But after 2 days, 3 days, whatever, it becomes less helpful. I agree with that. But I'm not going to say it's not helpful at all, because I guarantee if it's 90 degrees in the house and Ruby has power, I'm going to go sleep out there with the air conditioning on for a night or two.
Remember that you could go sleep in your car.
Yeah, so I mean, it is. I mean, I feel some comfort as an EV owner over an ICE car owner.
Absolutely.
If we have a short-term 2 to 3 day power outage, that I can have benefits from my car and that don't involve driving.
Well,
just sleeping, entertainment, charging cell phones. I mean, there's all of that.
Yeah, but the thing is, everybody misses. The F-150 can't run the whole house. If you have air conditioning, you know, I'm just simply saying is that, you know, living in this house without air conditioning, you know, you can run with a couple hours without air conditioning. So the F-150 is great for that. But if you're going to stay in this house for 3 days without air conditioning, forget it. So that's why I say a whole home gasoline powered generator can be large enough to run everything, including the air conditioning or the heat pump. And that's why I would say I'd rather spend the money towards the gasoline propane type generator than depending on either the Cybertruck or the F-150 Lightning, because those things aren't going to come with a 20 kilowatt inverter. They're not going to be able to handle it. They'll definitely handle the inconvenience, but if you really want to be able to stay in your home in the event of an emergency, they're not going to be able to handle it. Of course, you could argue, well, you're not going to have enough gasoline, but I think I could get in my Cybertruck and drive somewhere and find gasoline, you know, within a couple 100 miles and come back and bring the gasoline back. And I could bring one trip of gasoline, I could stay in my house for a month.
Well, anything Don's willing to do to make things better when the power goes out here before we get older would be good in my book. So
Anyway,
I'm waiting.
waiting.
Just when we got ready to leave for our walk, it decided to storm. It's a little thunder and lightning in it, and it's certainly raining more than we would prefer to be out in. So we're watching videos, and I'm doing Legos, and we'll try to go. It's only 1 o'clock. We'll try to go after the storm passes. So I've made good progress on the roof. It's mostly just filling in a bunch more of the slope bricks here. And I do think I probably have those. The ones I don't have that I need another order to come is to do these in the front, and I can easily do that after I do the rest of the roof. And I've set it on place to make sure it fit. You know, nothing like verifying before you build the whole thing that it actually fits where it's supposed to fit. So we ended up waiting about an hour and 10 minutes, and the storm has passed. It's safe for us to go walk now. There's thunder and lightning stopped for a little bit, and we're just gonna head over to Fleming Loop Park, which is a good place to walk when it's wet and it's not too sunny, and get our walk in. It's a little after 2, and I'll probably put the rest of the slope bricks on when I come home. They are gonna have one serious heating and air conditioning bill with this, because there's a huge hole from the first floor to the second hole, you know, over the stairwell. And then up here to this roof part, it's all open too. There's no other floor or anything, and all the heat's gonna rise, and the first floor is gonna be freezing.
Yeah.
But other than that, the design is really pretty.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can afford to heat and cool this building. Yeah. Well, as you would expect, there's not a lot of people here, and it's plenty sticky out here. So 2 times around is a little short. If we make one more loop around the center, that kind of gets us sort of where we usually like to be. I like to be. Don tolerates. No. Nice thing about here is there are several restroom areas. Probably the one in the middle is the only one open today, though, I would bet. And, you know, should you want to get back to the car for any reason, you're passing it while you're walking after the first loop. So it's got, you know, it's got options. But this is sometimes a very busy park with all these soccer. I mean, you can come here and pretty much every parking space is taken up and every soccer field is in motion. So don't let the light traffic right now fool you into thinking it goes unused, because that would be very inaccurate. Well, after studying it for a minute, there are some small fields and there's some larger marked soccer areas, so it must be depending on practice versus game and little kids versus bigger kids. And we commented that the poor guys that mow the lawn, they gotta move the goals every time they mow. I don't imagine they're too heavy, you know, something 2 guys can easily move, but still, that's at least 1 movement a week. Yeah, if they mow over here like they mow at South Park, that's 1 time a week they got to move them. Yeah. Well, I promised you guys that Don would talk today about the quote-unquote energy bill.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let's get the name right. The bill is the Inflation Reduction Act.
So it sounds all impressive.
Yeah, and it has numerous provisions. One of the provisions is related to prescription drugs. They limit the cost of Medicare to $2,000 a year, which is probably an okay thing.
What was it before?
I don't think there was a limit.
Okay.
They're adding money to IRS enforcement. They're going to be able to collect more tax revenue because they're going to enforce the tax laws, hopefully more fairly. The subsidy for the Affordable Care Act, which was going to run out at the end of this year, has been extended through 2025. And of course, the part that we're probably more interested in is the energy, and I'll talk about that in a second, but there's one more part that kind of affects, at least if you're a Tesla stockholder. It's the new basically what amounts to an alternative minimal tax for corporations of 15%, plus there's now a 1% penalty on stock buybacks, and that's where it affects Tesla, because it's possible in the future year or so, 2 years, that Tesla is going to buy back the some of its stock, and they'll have to pay a 1% penalty on that. So you know, that was to hopefully encourage well, I don't know what it was supposed to, maybe just gain revenue for the government, but also
maybe give the money back to the employees or something. It was, I think, what Bernie Sanders was wanting. Said instead of those greedy corporate profits going into those greedy stockholders, you know,
people like me and Don.
Yeah, like us. Yeah.
Yeah, not greedy.
Yeah, anyway, so I think that the buyback should be based on a valid corporate reason, and if you don't have any place you can invest the money, and your stock is the best investment, go on and do it.
I thought that was a Model 3 parked over here when we were on the other side of the parking lot, and I was not wrong.
Yeah. But the energy part of this, you know, the tax credits and all that. Look, I'll be real honest. I don't like it at all. I think my position, I've been consistent. I haven't liked any of these subsidies, these credits, tax credits. Now look, I've taken it twice. I understand it. I bought 3 cars and taken it twice. I didn't get it on the Y. So I realize it's easy for me to say, but at this point, I don't think they're beneficial. I don't think the government needs to be subsidizing that. And I'll go even further. The Wall Street Journal editorial board on the 18th wrote about the winners and losers on this thing. And you know, the consensus is it isn't going to help it fight inflation at all, and that we as citizens are going to be less energy secure, and the cost of energy is going to go up. You know, this is another subsidy for the renewable energy, and I realize that renewables is important, but I think that if renewables are so great, please don't subsidize them. If it, you know, because at this point, I don't think it is driving. I don't think renewables is a way to get affordable, low-cost, reliable energy. I think that it's actually detrimental to our stability and our prices of energy because they haven't hit on the right way to manage it. Now, I think Tesla's doing great things in that area, but it's still such a small part, and we have such a big demand. I've read several articles, books, YouTubes, and it's questionable that renewables, the rate that they're being installed, they're never going to be, well, I shouldn't say never, not likely to be able to replace the fossil fuels. Right now, it's debatable if they can even replace the increase in energy. Our energy demands go up every year, and the rate in which they're installing wind and solar is inadequate to even meet the increased demand, much less go back and replace all that old stuff that's been around for years. And the problem is it's causing issues with the price structure because of all these subsidies. So I think we ought to just stop the subsidies on the renewable stuff and let it go the way it's going to go. That's my opinion. But anyway, you should read the Wall Street Journal's article on the 18th. They went into it a little bit less emotional, but their conclusion is A, it ain't going to fight inflation one bit. B, it's just going to cause energy security problems and price increases. It's another handout to the renewable industry, and you know, it's also basically going to hurt the fossil fuels. You know, our current energy mix. It's not going to help anybody. That Biden's following through on his campaign promise to get rid of fossil fuels. It doesn't matter what the impact's going to be on the people. So I'm not for it myself.
Right. Well, I think you're really not saying anything that Elon hasn't said. He said before that he doesn't support EV subsidies.
Right.
And that was even when Tesla was still receiving it. He said that.
Right.
And he also doesn't support closing perfectly good nuclear power plants just because we think we need to move to renewables in some time frame that may not actually meet the needs of society having reliable, affordable power.
Right.
So you're really not saying anything different than Elon said. I guess you're just, you know, you're agreeing with him with some twists on what he said.
Right. Well, I would say in the article, the Wall Street Journal article said, it's basically yet another transfer of wealth to the green people. It doesn't really do anything to help them you know, conquer the goal. It just keeps them around. And I keep saying, at some point, if renewables is such a great thing and it is the absolute future, prove it. Say, no, we don't want your subsidies. We don't need the production tax credit. We don't need those kind of things. Because they've extended the rooftop solar credit. You know, if it's cheaper, prove it. All you're doing is giving all those Asian companies, they're making all the solar cells. I mean, if I could see Biden, you know, he was so strong on, oh, we need to get battery manufacturing here, we need to get union jobs here, we need to do that. Well, why didn't he say, well, unless you make the solar cells and buy solar panels, solar cells, including the aluminum and everything else that goes into the solar, if you don't make it in the United States, you don't get no credit. Why didn't he say that?
Right. Well, there are all these rules in there about the EV. Is it a rebate or a credit
Right,
now?
About
where the batteries are made comes into play.
Yeah. So, you know,
the cost of the car comes into play. I know there's a couple of pieces out there that basically talk about how it's a dealer incentive. These. You know, the rebate, the credit, whatever it is, it's
when you buy the car, you're gonna get, the dealer's gonna get the $7,500 right then.
Yeah. See, the only thing that happens with these is all of the manufacturers of EVs, they adjust the price of the EV based on what they can get away with based on the credit. You know, so you'll see some movement in the prices based on how much a person's going to get back on that particular vehicle, or they'll move their they'll reduce the size of the battery to meet the cost to get the credit, or, you know, it makes them make manufacturing decisions and pricing decisions around what the government says instead of letting the market sort it out. And I'm not for that either. So I didn't like what we had because Tesla wasn't included anymore. It was like they were being punished for being the bleeding company making it happen. But
that was going to run out really soon for like Ford.
Right.
It already ran out for GM.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, maybe it would help Lucid for a while, or maybe it would help Rivian for a while. I get it, but it was only 200,000 vehicles.
Yeah, well, they thought it was all funny when it wasn't helping Tesla anymore, but when it started to hurt the union shops too, then they thought it wasn't so funny and they needed to fix it. So
well, I think you should open your plant wherever you want to open your plant. If you want to open your plant in a right to work state, great. If you want to open your plant in a closed shop state, that's all between you and your stockholders and your investors. I'm totally free for you to do whatever you want to do. But when the government gets involved in
picking winners and losers
decision, I don't like it. I don't like it. With my tax dollars, I don't like it one bit.
Yeah. So I guess Don and I, neither one of us are very pro on this thing having passed. As much as we would have liked to have re-leveled the playing field for Tesla, I'm not sure that this did that, and I'm not sure it really helps lower income families that want to buy an EV. I'm not convinced there's anything in there that's good for them, or even middle income families that, you know, the price parity is really not so high up anymore. And that was the reason for the EV tax credit in the first place, right? Was because of the battery pack. It costs more to build a similar sized vehicle. Well, that's, you know, Tesla's brought that down. And no, you don't really care if it's still hurting the other companies or not. They can learn how to build it more reliably, cheaper also.
Competition is good. There's nothing like being out of work or fixing to lose your job because competition is kicking your butt and fire up your creative juices.
I think we should walk down to the end and back up and then continue on around. So I don't know. Let us know what you guys think. We're not really, there's nothing in that bill that we've read that we went, oh wow, that makes great sense, and we're totally glad they did that. That light bulb has not turned on for us.
Well, especially, I guess I can see how some people could be for it, and I understand that. But what I'm getting at is that the actual cost of that bill, the bang for the buck, the value that we're going to get out of it for what we're going to spend, or the debt's going to go up, that's where I'm saying I don't think that it's money well spent.
I do think it's a shame that Tesla has not yet announced or built a 25K car, because if we wanted to have lower income families with more reliable, renewable, cheaper for them to maintain and run car, it would be Tesla supplying something.
Right. I guess if you're thinking that the purpose of this tax credit is to help low-income families get into electric cars, I think that's a little simplistic. I don't think low-income families are looking to buy any new car. Now, if you're talking 5 years ago, make sure that the used electric cars are available for low-income families. That's fine. That's legitimate. The more you sell to non-low-income families now means that in a few years those cars will be available to low-income families. But I don't think low-income families are trying to buy a Cybertruck, or certainly not trying to buy an F-150 or a Chevrolet Silverado with that money. You're not talking about helping low-income families. That's a total fallacy. What Marianne said is correct, but that gets us back to the whole problem. You go into a dealer and you buy a $25,000 EV from the dealer, and he gives you $7,500 off right then, okay? And then, so you walk out the door, and then you go out there and you pay your taxes, and the whole point of it is, well, wait a minute, you didn't qualify for it, you didn't make that much money. I wondered that nobody has talked about that, because...
Well, they don't want to hide that ugly truth. I mean, they want to hide the ugly truth.
I think that the government's going to send you a little check back that says, wait a minute, you're only qualified because of your income. You only qualify for $1,000 of the $7,500. You need to pay us $6,500 back because we gave that dealer $7,500, and you only qualify because you didn't pay but $1,000. So boom, because that's what happens with this on the hood at time of purchase. Before, you would make the decision, and when you got around to paying your taxes or doing your taxes, that's when the real value of the tax credit kicked in. Now, I realize most people have an idea how much their tax bill is going to be, but I would tell you, if you didn't pay any taxes, or you only paid a couple $1,000s in taxes last year, you should be very careful about going into a dealer and getting a $7,500 credit, because the Affordable Care Act, that subsidy that you qualify on the internet for when you sign up, when you do your taxes, the government, because I've seen the question, says,
well, and it happened to us. I mean, just tell them the truth. I was getting all the time, you know, Don, because of when he retired and when we got married, we can't share health insurance through any workplace benefit. So Don's got some IBM retirement help and I don't. So we pay for me off the marketplace. We're actually paying for Johnny off the marketplace now too. And you know, they were sending me a text message a day. You need to go in and fill out the application. You need to find out how much you can receive. You need to do, you know, so I did it, and Don and I answered the questions as honest as we could. And then it turned out that he stayed on this contract longer than he thought. And all of the subsidy that we got, Don paid back.
That's right.
But I went through the process, and it was a little painful, but we were able to pay it back. I mean, you know, it is what it is. But, you know, and Don went into it understanding that, you know, kid, we're probably just going to have to pay it all back. But yeah, you answer the questions as best as honest as you can, and they give you all these warnings, and then, you know, they gave us money, and then we paid it all back. So it's all this little, you know, it'd just be better to not play these games in the first. Kind of like going shopping at Kohl's.
Well, again, the lower your income is, the more problematic that little thing is. Now,
yep.
maybe I've misunderstood it, but I don't think I have. And if I'm wrong, set me straight. But that $7,500, everybody who buys an electric car, the dealer's going to immediately give them that $7,500 credit. But when they get back home and they do their taxes, They may not pay $7,500 in taxes, but they got $7,500 credit. So the government says, well, you got to pay us back the difference between those two numbers. And just, you know, so now you're actually going to be paying taxes.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, Don doesn't like shopping at Kohl's because well, first off, he doesn't do a lot of shopping except at Home Depot, Amazon, and occasionally Walmart. Maybe Harris Teeter if I send him out for something. He doesn't do shopping. I shop for us. Right. But when you go to Kohl's, you never know exactly how much you're going to pay for anything because they have this intentionally super high marked up price. And then they send out these coupons to different people with different, you know, 10, 15, 20, 30% off values. And then that might be off of the sale or the clearance price, or it might not. And then there's exclusions on which goods in the store you can use it on. Like you can't go get a KitchenAid stand mixer and use a 30% off coupon because they know that, you know, they're not going to give you that. And you really, honestly, you don't know till you get to the checkout line exactly how much that shirt or that pair of pants you wanted to buy is going to cost you. And it's a similar thing here, and that's one of the reasons why we don't patronize Kohl's. You know, I did see something the other day. I don't like to patronize Harris Teeter because they give gas points. I go in there because it's the closest thing to Whole Foods that we have in Fuquay without driving up to Whole Foods, but I really don't like shopping in there. I hate their self-checkout system. It sucks. And on top of that, they give these gas points. I did see some place, Costco just on top of gas points or whatever, they're now doing EV charging subsidy point system, something to mitigate the gas part, to make it more fair, to put some EV incentive in there too. So that's nice, but I don't know. Could you not just charge a really good price for your products in the first place and leave these little these games out of it? You know, when I was in my 20s, I clipped coupons and played coupon games all the time. I've been known to go to 4 or 5 stores hunting the cheapest value for this, that, or the other. But, you know, later in life, maybe not so much. But just charge a fair price, you know, wholesale plus whatever you need to keep the store open and make a small profit. And just charge that and don't play all these games. See, that's Tesla's strategy. They don't advertise. They don't do big PR, and you know exactly how much your car is going to cost when you order it. And there's no dealer to mark it up for them, and there's no games. And you either agree for that purchase price or you don't. But all these other places, they're playing games, and it's not to benefit you. They make you feel good because you got this discount, but you really shouldn't feel too good about it, I would argue.
Got a little bit of shade.
Yeah, this has a little shade. There's a birthday party in the pavilion here. I'm glad it stopped raining for them. They ought to be able to enjoy the rest of the afternoon out here. But it is a nice playground here at this park. Probably could use a little more shade. We're close to 1.9 miles and 45 minutes of walking now, and we're basically on our second lap. And I was letting Dawn know that I felt if we walk straight to Joel's after we complete the U here, that will be a little short on our mileage for today, so we are strategizing it. Although I gotta tell you, it is super sticky out here. It is not pleasant. The only saving grace is that I already made deviled eggs at home and they're cold and ready to go. The little green onion has permeated through the egg mixture. It's got some bacon in it. It's ready to go when we get in. I don't have to prep it or anything. Are you being my tuxedo cat today?
Yeah, I got my black and white on today.
Black and white day, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't make Tux too jealous, though.
Right. Don't see how that's going to happen.
I say instead of going up and over to Joel's, we just walk this way.
Okay. Be different.
Be different. I might be willing to stop by the time we get to Joel's. I'm pretty sticky. We'll see. Of course, Don's always willing to take a nap in the car while I knock myself out doing some additional walking.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good to me.
And probably part of the time you couldn't hear Don so well, and this is why. Although I like it. Don't misunderstand. I think it's great. They've got a little fountain action going on there. Yeah, as the crow flies, basically if we run a line straight through Don, maybe 10 degrees to the right, we'd hit our house. We're not very far from our house, but in order to get there from here, we have to basically make a big square.
Yeah, this is about the same distance as South Park. It's just from our house but it's just, you can't get there.
Right, you got to go around.
Yeah, mileage on the road is much further because all the entrances are opposite of our house. They're all
Right, well,
on
the
far
neighborhood across the street from us is basically straight ahead, but there's no access to the park from that neighborhood.
end. Right. Well, no official, I think.
Right, they got a whole a worn path through the woods. Like somebody at one of the universities said, is you don't go put in paths right away. You see where the people walk, and then you come put the paths in.
Pretty much.
They'll tell you where they want the traffic to be. Hey, Don says we can do the U one more time to get our 60 minutes and 2.6 or 2.7 miles, which matches our daily South Park walk.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah.
It's sticky though, let me tell you.
And the sun's coming out.
Yeah, that's why I've got my
Sky's
hats
getting
on.
blue.
Trying to keep my forehead from getting too much sun.
Yeah.
You trying to improve upon your best husband ever status today?
Maybe. Maybe.
It's past time for Uncle Sam to go, and he offered to take him down for me, and I said that'd be great, but if you're going to take him down, why don't you put up
Black cat.
Black Cat? Well, I've done what I had time to do and had parts to do. I still need to do this chunk on the front, and then there's a couple of slope parts that are missing, which are coming. So, but yeah, I still have this. The roof took a little longer than normal. I did something wrong. I had to pull it apart and fix it. That happens sometimes to everybody. And I'm happy with it. I just, that's all I got time for today. Right, nighttime? You did help. You did your best to help, though. I know you did. Dinner tonight is a chuck eye steak and a egg, broccoli, sausage, cheese, garlic. I think that's everything in it tonight. Basil flavored quiche. We'll call it a quiche. Yum.